Hola Year 7 and welcome to your 10th lesson of the spring term, and today you'll be looking at ER verbs with Miss Clinton. Here's a list of what you'll need for this lesson: your Spanish exercise book, a pen, a ruler and a different coloured pen or highlighter for any marking you need to do or highlighting, and a sentence builder which is also available on class charts. So pause to get that ready now, press play to go on. Thank you for uploading all of your work onto class charts. Please remember you must upload evidence of all of the work that you complete. That includes any Quizlet activities or any other activities that you do, say flashcards, within the lessons. And a clear photo, please, so I can mark the work. Also, make sure that you follow the indicated time for each activity, which is on each slide. Don't go over this, just move on if you hit the time limit. Also, please email me if you have any questions about any of the activities in today's lesson, and here's my email address. Okay, Year 7, as always, what I would like you to do now is to write down the date in Spanish, and this can be found on class charts, and underline it neatly in your book. Then write down the title in Spanish and in English. verbs in el presente, or verbs in the present tense. Underline the date and title neatly in your book, and then write down the objective, objetivo, to learn the full paradigm of verbs in the present tense. Pause to do that now, press play when you're ready to go to the do now. Let's take a look at the do now activity. The do now activity should take no more than 5 minutes. Okay, what do we need to do? Well, you need to complete the sentences with the correct missing verb hacer, to do, leer, to read, or ver, to see or watch. And I want you to write the sentences in full in Spanish, which are here. And there's a hint here. If you need some support, if you need some help, you can choose the correct verbs from the pink boxes at the bottom. So these are different forms of the verbs hacer, leer, and ver. There's an example here I'd like to do together. So here we have a sentence, los lunes, blank, mis deberes. And in brackets, it tells you exactly what you're to write in Spanish and the instructions in English. So we need to say I do. So I do is hago. So you put hago in there. The answers to 1 to 5 are in the pink box if you need it. Try to do it without if you can. Pause to do that now. Press play to get the answers. Time to check your answers and make any corrections you need to. Please use a highlighter pen and clearly write out the correct answer after your work if you didn't quite get it right first time. 1. Los miércoles I read libros is leo. 2. Los jueves I watch películas is veo películas. Los viernes mis amigos y yo we do hacemos nuestros deberes. We do our homework. 4. Los martes, mis amigos, they read, leen libros. Y 5. Los fines de semana, mi hermano, he watches, ve películas. Pause to check those answers now. The endings you can see are highlighted in bold, and press play to go on to activity 1. And I'll leave you with Miss Clinton now. Have a really good lesson. Gracias, adios.
Hola, so yes, we're going to recap our pronunciation practice of the sentence builder. We saw this last lesson as well. Okay, so we're going to jump straight to the verb and the present tense to practice our ER verbs. Remember, per row, of course, are verb endings which are highlighted and underlined. So repeat after me. Leo libros. Hago mis deberes. Veo películas. Muy bien. So remember, those all end in O because they're first person singular. We're saying the yo form. I read books, I do my homework, etc. Next, third person singular verbs. So he and she form the él and ella. Lee libros. Hace sus deberes. Ve películas. Fantástico. Remember, these all end in that sound. And hopefully you remember to pronounce your V like a B. And on to the nosotros form, so the first person singular. Repeat. Leemos libros. Hacemos nuestros deberes. Vemos películas. So notice, because they're all saying we do something, they all end in hemos because they're all ER verbs. And finally, for the ellos, ellas form, they, so the third person plural, repeat, leen libros. Hacen sus deberes. Ven películas. Muy bien, so you'll notice they all ended in N, of course, because they were saying they do those things. Note as well, when we're talking about homework, of course, we can't say hacen mis deberes, we couldn't say they do my homework. So note, after, in this sentence each time, then the possessive adjective is changing. So here we have sus, then we have nuestros. Go back to sus, and of course, you all know mis to mean my. Okay, so again, we're very good at our connectors pronunciation and our opinion. So let's just practice finally the infinitive structures again. Repeat, leer libros. Hacer mis deberes. Ver películas. Fantástico. So we're going to do some Spanish dictations. I say the sentences in Spanish and you write them down. Pause the video in between each one if you need more time to write it. Número 1. Los lunes, mis amigos y yo leemos libros porque me gusta leer libros. Los lunes, mis amigos y yo leemos libros porque me gusta leer libros. 2. Los sábados veo películas porque me encanta ver películas. Los sábados veo películas porque me encanta ver películas. 3. Los viernes mis amigos hacen sus deberes, pero odio hacer mis deberes. Los viernes mis amigos hacen sus deberes, pero odio hacer mis deberes. 4. Los martes mi amigo lee libros, pero no me gusta leer libros. Los martes mi amigo lee libros, pero no me gusta leer libros. Pause your video if you need more time to write. Let's now check through your answers and pay particular attention to your verbs, which I've highlighted in red. Make sure you've got the correct endings. So number 1, los lunes mis amigos y yo leemos libros porque me gusta leer libros. Here we were saying my friends and I, therefore I plus them, we want to say we read, therefore we needed the nosotros form, ending in hemos. 2, los sábados veo películas porque me encanta ver películas. So here we're thinking about our accent on sábados, películas on our I, and also our verb ending. We just said we don't need to just say, here we wanted the first person singular, the yo form, so it should have ended in O. 3. Los viernes, mis amigos hacen sus deberes, pero odio hacer mis deberes. So here we were saying, referring to my friends who were doing their homework, therefore we want to say they do, and therefore it should have ended in en, so hacen. And finally 4. Los martes, mi amigo lee libros, pero no me gusta leer libros. Here we're referring to my friend, so we wanted the he form, so it should have ended our verb in an E. Pause your video if you need to make any changes. So we're now going to do the same thing again, but this time I'll say the sentences in English. You still write them in Spanish though. Okay, so I'll repeat each phrase twice in English and you write down the Spanish translation. Número uno. On Wednesdays, I do my homework because I like to do my homework. On Wednesdays, I do my homework because I like to do my homework. And again, pay particular attention to your verb endings as well. Number two, on the weekends, my friends and their girls, all of them, watch films, but I don't like to watch films. On the weekends, my friends, who are all girls, watch films, but I don't like to watch films. 3. On Sundays, my friends and I do our homework, but I hate to do my homework. On Sundays, my friends and I do our homework, but I hate to do my homework. 4. On Thursdays, I read books because I love to read books. On Thursdays, I read books because I love to read books. Pause your video if you need more time. So let's check through your answers. Número uno, you should have written, los miércoles hago mis deberes porque me gusta hacer mis deberes. So you should have had an accent on your E of miércoles, and also you wanted the first person singular. So you wanted to say I do, and therefore it should have ended in an O. But remember it's slightly irregular verb, so it ends in GO and not a C. Número dos, you should have written los fines de semana, mis amigas, because it was a group of female friends, so amigas, ven películas, pero no me gusta ver películas. So here you were thinking about your verb ending. You want to say they watch, so it ended in EN, and also your accent on I of películas. 3. Los domingos mis amigos y yo hacemos nuestros deberes, pero odio hacer mis deberes. Here you were saying my friends and I, so we wanted to use the nosotros form, the we form, first person singular, therefore it should have ended in hemos. And we should have said our homework, nuestros. Muy bien. Número 4. Los jueves leo libros porque me encanta leer libros. So this time I said I read, therefore you wanted the first person singular, your form to say I, so it should have ended in O. Okay, just make sure as well that you've written your infinitive structures correctly. So after number 1, hacer, and just check your spellings. Number 2, ver. Okay, they should each have ending in ER. So 3 was hacer again, and 4 was leer. Pause your video if you need more time. So a bit more into the grammar now. Recapping the present tense that we did with AR verbs, but today, of course, the focus is on ER verbs. So, as always, listen to me explain and then copy everything into your book. So today, of course, present tense of regular ER verbs. So remember, we use the present tense when we want to kind of talk about our routine. So for example, a veces hago deporte. So sometimes I do sport. We want to also use it to say what's happening now. For example, estudio español en mi instituto. I study Spanish in my school currently. And number 3, remember for facts. So for example, tengo el pelo rubio, I have blonde hair. So for the formation, remember just as we did with AR verbs, you need to find the infinitive first. So you'll always find this in your dictionary, your online dictionary word reference, for example. It will always tell you initially the infinitive, which in this case today will always end in ER. And remember, the infinitive always means to do something. Okay, so it's the root form. It just tells us the meaning of the action. Number 2, you then need to cut off that ER ending. So you end up with a stem. In this case, we've cut off our ER and we want to now, we're left with LE, which is our stem. Okay, then we need to add the correct endings according to who is doing the action. So for example, if we added on EN to our stem, remember our stem is the same every time, then that would mean they read books, leen libros. So this is our table, but today looking at leer, to read. So I read books, leo libros. And notice our endings are always attached to our, added onto our stem, which is always the same. In this case, it's always le, le. Okay, lovely, muy bien. So let's continue. Use singular plural, read books, lees libros. He, she, or it reads books. Lee libros. Okay, so that double E sound. We read books, leemos libros. You plural read books, leéis libros. Notice that has an accent on the first E. And finally, they read books, and this is for both masculine groups, or feminine groups, or mixed groups, leen libros. So pause your video now and write everything down. Okay, so just as we did last time with the AR verbs, you're now going to practice on Quizlet your ER verb endings. So spend about 10 minutes on the link, completing first of all the learn and write section, and then finally the last couple of minutes to test yourself. Then you need to send a screenshot to your teacher. So I'll see you back in about 10 minutes time. Pause your video now. So we're going to practice now these VR verb endings you've just been learning on Quizlet, but this time we'll use a different verb and we'll look at the verb ver. So first of all, choose the correct form of the verb ver and then translate the sentences into English. So number 1, example, remember you have multiple choice options here, either, and always make sure you're looking at your subject pronouns. Who is doing the action? In this case, tú, which means we know you singular. So are we going to choose ves or be, películas? Well, because it's you plural singular, we know that ends in an es. So ves, we would write ves in Spanish, and then the translation, you singular, watch films. So remember to write out the sentences in full in Spanish, choosing the correct verb of ver, and then translate the sentences into English. Pause your video now. So let's have a look at your answers, year 7. So number 1, of course, we wanted to use the third person singular, she, so ella. And so therefore we needed to choose the verb ve, because we know that they end in e. She watches films with her family. Next one, nosotros vemos. Here we wanted the first person singular to say we, so it should have ended in hemos. We watch videos online, or you may have written on the internet. Either would be fine. 3. Yo veo, I watch the television with my sister. Now I've asterisked this slightly because you'll notice it's a slightly irregular verb, this one, although it ends in the O, which is regular. If you were following the normal rules, of course, it would have just been written, you'd have cut off the ER from ver, okay, and you would have ended up with just VO. But of course, they can't have that. They don't have that sound in Spanish, so there's an extra E. The E is left on to the stem. Número 4. Vosotros veis vídeos en clase. Here we wanted the you, the vosotros forms, the you plural form, okay? So second person plural, veis. You plural watch videos in class. Again, because it is slightly irregular, this verb, I've asterisked it and there is no accent on this form. Whereas you know for regular verbs, there is always that accent on the first E. Finally, number 5, él, we want to use the third person singular for he, so therefore we want to add the verb ve, which ends in an E. Él ve películas con sus amigos. He watches films with his friends. And finally, number 6, ellos, we want the third person plural, the they form. Okay, so we need to choose ven. They watch sports programs on the television. You hopefully remembered deporte from when we were saying hago deporte, when we're talking about other free time activities. Just note the different word order in Spanish. They say programs of sport, whereas of course in English we put the adjective first. So pause your video if you need to make any changes. So on to the last activity here. We now want to combine ER verbs and AR verbs to see how well you've learnt the two. So translate the following sentences into Spanish using the correct form of chatear and leer. Write the Spanish only. Example, use singular chat with your friends. Okay, I know that chat is an AR verb and I want the second person plural, so second person singular, use singular form, which is tú so chateas con tus amigos. So, off you go, pausing your video now. So let's check through your answers. Number 1, he chats on the phone, chatea por teléfono. Third person singular, so the he form, so therefore ends in an a for AR verbs. We read books, leer, ER verb, and we want the nosotros form, the we form. So ending in hemos, leemos libros. 3, I chat with my family. Again, we've got the first person singular, the yo form, so we know that they always end in an o. So adding onto our stem, chateo con mi familia. 4, you plural read books. Lees libros. Here, because it's the vosotros form, you plural, we added onto our stem the ER verbs, the EIS, the ace. And remember that has an accent on the second E there. 5, she chats with her friends and they will or female her friends. So third person singular verb ending for she, for our AR verbs is a. So added onto our stem, which is chate. So chatean con sus amigas. And of course amigas because it's a group of female friends. 6, my friends read in class. Again, these amigas because it's a female group. Added onto the stem le, we want our ER verb ending for the ellos, ellas form, they, because we're saying my friends, they read. So we need to add on en, leen en clase. And finally, number 7, use singular read online. Again, we're using the verb leer, ER verb, so for the second person singular, the you, tú form, it's lees, ending in es, por internet. Pause your video if you need more time.
Fantastic work today, Year 7. Now please upload a clear photo of all the work that you've done today onto class charts for me so I can give you a well-deserved achievement point and mark it if I can. Gracias, adiós.